Hi guys! So recently I went out of state for a week to visit family, and in order for me to do that, having as many pets and reptiles as I do, I have to plan accordingly and set up things before I go. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to make a video for you guys showing how I go out of town with reptiles and dogs and fish and how those get taken care of while I'm gone, because obviously I can't just leave everything here for a week straight. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to show you guys what exactly I do in order to leave. Alright, so first thing, I have two dogs. I have a golden retriever, cocker spaniel mix, and I have a German shepherd. When I'm going out of town, they're actually the most difficult out of all of my animals to take care of. But in order to take care of them, they actually usually go to two separate places. So my golden retriever cocker spaniel mix, Sam, is an 8-year-old dog who has energy when he wants to, but most of the time he'll just lay around the house. So he actually goes to my mom's house. She watches him while we are gone. And Maui, my German shepherd, he actually gets boarded at a boarding facility, who actually is the same people that did my bearded dragon surgery, who are amazing. They only charge $25 a day. So that's not bad at all, and he gets to go and play with all the other dogs. They have like a doggy swimming pool. They have a fire hydrant sprinkler. They have a whole outside fake grassed in area. So he gets to be in doggy heaven while we're gone. But the reason for me separating my two dogs when I leave is because Maui is a lot. He is an 8-month-old German shepherd, so he is almost full grown, but he still acts like a puppy. And my mom has very small dogs that are also older, so he can't really be around those little dogs because he could seriously hurt them, because he does have so much energy and they are so small. And doing it that way, Sam just lays around, he doesn't pay attention to them, and that saves us money, and we know that way that both of the dogs are in good hands. For my fish, they are the easiest to deal with when I'm gone, because I just make sure to do water changes before I leave, and I buy the fish block vacation things that you throw in there, and they usually last, they have some that last 7 days and that last 14 days. They just get those thrown in their tanks, and their water is clean, and they're good to go. So as for all of my reptiles, leaving my reptiles absolutely terrifies me every single time, because I'm the kind that worries so much about things that shouldn't be worried about. So one of my biggest fears is that I'm going to leave and my house is going to be like on fire because of the heat pad's going to malfunction, or my lights are going to malfunction, or something like that. So this one's always really hard for me, but they do all stay in my house. One of the most important things that you need when you go out of town is a good support system. You need someone or people that are going to be able to come to your house, I would say at least every other day, to check on your animals and feed them if necessary, and provide them with clean water. This was something that was hard for me when I first started getting reptiles, and that terrified me because my support system is my mother, who is terrified of reptiles. But I think the key to that was just to make sure that I made everything as easy as possible for her and as convenient as possible, and I kind of slowly introduced her to the idea of taking care of these reptiles. I didn't just spring it all on her at once, like, hey, I need you to do this while I leave, take care of this snake and this snake and this lizard. I slowly introduced her to that concept, and she was able to take care of those animals for me. But it's very important that you have someone that can do that for you, especially when you have quite a few reptiles. If you just have a bunch of snakes and you're just going to be gone for a few days, you'll probably be fine. But you have to have someone that can give them fresh water, especially if you have things like crescent geckos and gargle geckos, because their tanks have to be sprayed down, or else they could get severely dehydrated. You could get a fogger for those tanks to make sure that the humidity stays up, and that would actually buy you some time, but they are pretty expensive, so keep that in mind. For a bearded dragon, they can also go a few days, but you don't want to force any of your animals to be without food or water if they don't have to. Especially, let's say that you went out of town for a few days and you thought that your leopard gecko would be fine, or your snake would be fine, and then they ran out of water and then they started to shed, and it would just cause a whole big list of problems. But it's important to have someone that understands the steps that you've given to them and that can call you and say, hey, this went wrong. Like, my bearded dragon's timer went out when I was gone, and my mom had to call me, and we had to try to figure out how to fix her timer, because her timer was a cheap one off of Amazon, and it went out. I also suggest bringing that person in if they've never had reptiles. If they have reptiles, then all this is probably unnecessary, and you can probably just say, hey, can you take care of my leopard gecko? The end. But if the person's never been around reptiles, I would highly suggest bringing them into your house and walking them through how to do each thing before you leave them to figure it out and do it by themselves. I will say it's very important for your reptiles, if you are going out of town, to have timers for your lights, because it's probably going to be really hard to find someone that's going to come to your house every morning and turn your lights on, and come to your house every night and turn your lights off. So the best thing to do is get timers. I use these green ones. They're super easy. You just flip the switches when you want the lights on and off, and you twist it to show what time it is, and you're good to go. On these timer switches, half of the rows are always on and the other half are on the timer, so you can, like, heat pads can stay on the always on and the lights can stay on the timer switches, and it works out amazingly. I would highly suggest you get those timer switches if you're going out of town. So what I do, since my mom is terrified of reptiles and she's the one that takes care of my reptiles, is I make everything super easy for her. So one of the most important things is to make sure that you have enough food for your animals while you're gone. That way it prevents the person that's watching your animals from having to go and get food for them while they're watching them. So Zaz eats hornworms and her vegetables while I'm gone. I do not make my mom deal with crickets or superworms or anything like that, because they're gross, and also they stink and they can escape. For the hornworm, she just feeds her 1 or 2 giant hornworms a day, makes her a salad, and makes sure that her water bowl is filled up and we're good to go, because when I'm gone, Zaz does have a water bowl in her tank, and that way if she does get thirsty, she can drink out of her water bowl. She never does. I usually get back and a small amount has evaporated and the rest is just there and she doesn't drink it. But it's always good to have that in there just in case they need it. For my leopard gecko, Percy, I leave mealworms to be fed to her because they are easy and they do not bite and they will not escape. For my crested gecko and gargoyle gecko, I pre-make all of their gecko food in a little squeezy container. I actually got this back when Zaz was sick. They gave me some of these to put her critical care in to mix it up and make it when she was sick, but I just had some left over, so I use those to fill it up with crested gecko and gargoyle gecko food. So my mom can just take the little bowls out and squirt food in there and stick a new bowl in there, and she's done with that. It also makes it easier for my mom to come in the daytime, so that way the geckos are not out. They are all hidden away and sleeping, and she doesn't have to worry about any of them jumping on her. I also fill up water bottles that are already treated with ReptiSafe. That way she doesn't have to deal with that either. That way she can grab water bottles and fill up water bowls and spray tanks down, and she doesn't have to deal with any of that. They're already filled up and ready to go. For the 3 snakes, and this is the one that always gets her because she is absolutely terrified of snakes. If a snake is out, she will not go in that room. For those, I just left out bottles of pre-treated with ReptiSafe water, and she just made sure that the water bowls had water in them, and if they didn't, she just poured water through the screens, and that was it. Definitely feed your snakes before you leave, because if you're going to be gone for a week and a half, your snake will be fine without food. As long as you feed them right before you leave, they'll be fine and happy. I also taped Post-it notes to all of my reptiles tanks that had directions for taking care of each animal on it, so that way if she forgot, she could just look at the Post-it note, make sure that she did everything, and then she was good to go. Another thing to note is that if you only have 1 or 2 reptiles and you have someone that's willing to actually take those reptiles in, so maybe you have like a small crested gecko tank and a small leopard gecko tank, it's always really good to be able to take those tanks just over to a friend's house or a family member's house or whatever, and then you don't have to worry about it. That really wouldn't be a possibility for me though, because that would mean that I would have to take 6 tanks over to someone's house and plug everything back in and set everything back up. And like Sterling's tank is a 40-gallon breeder, so that would be a lot. But if you just have a couple of small animals, a couple of small reptiles, then it'd be really nice and easy if that was a possibility. In worst case scenario, there's actually places that board dogs that also will board reptiles. So the place that we board Maui at will take in reptiles. There's also websites online that offer in-home animal sitting or checking on your animals or dog sitting or whatever. So those are also something that you can always look into, worst case scenario, if you need that. But yeah, guys, that's about it. This was a short video, but I thought that maybe I could provide just a little bit of assistance to anyone that may be in the same boat that I was in, where I was so scared when I first got my reptiles because I didn't know how I was going to deal with going out of town and my animals being here. Hopefully I helped in some way, or at least gave you tips that you could use for the future. But if you like this video, please hit that subscribe button below. I put out new videos every Sunday. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.